48-hour national strike called by Chile's National Federation of Healthcare Workers continues this Friday to demand the government fulfill its commitments to the sector. Democrat Joe Biden won the states of Arizona and Georgia this Friday to secure a total of 306 electoral college votes against President Donald Trump's 232. The Moroccan army has launched an illegal military operation in the Western Sahara in violation of the ceasefire, triggering clashes with the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Katrina Goss. We begin in Chile, where the 48-hour national strike called by the National Federation of Healthcare Workers continues this Friday to demand the government fulfill its commitments to the sector. Health workers were set to march to the presidential palace and then rally in the capital's Dignity Square. The strike action was immediately implemented after a budget proposal that did not satisfy sector demands, which include the payment of overdue salaries and exceptional financial assistance in the face of the economic crisis sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, in the framework of the second anniversary of the assassination of Mapuche leader Camilo Catrillanca, social organisations are mobilising against the government of Sebastián Piñera in Dignity Square to demand the release of all Mapuche political prisoners. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro headed the closure of the global meeting of the anti-imperialist working class this Friday and assured that it represents a grand alliance of progressive forces fighting for a fairer world.
After several days of meetings, exchanges and discussions, this platform launched into the world this great alliance of trade union forces, of progressive forces representing the working class, fighting for a different world, a world of equals, for a world without war, for a world where the wealth produced by the working class is issued for life, for welfare, for inclusion, for a new society.
And the Venezuelan president highlighted that more than 61 countries in 5 continents are represented through this platform, which emerged from the Sao Paulo Forum and the global meeting of the working class held in 2019.
We have contact with 61 countries. More than 200 leaders are currently participating in this video conference from 5 continents. More than 171 working-class trade unions organizations from around the world, more than 48 political parties and 87 progressive movements, all connected from today in a platform of the anti-imperialist working class.
And President Maduro also praised the political debate broadcast on Thursday on the Venevisión channel and expressed his agreement with the statements of those hoping to be elected to the National Assembly regarding the investigations of government officials that they plan to carry out.
There, the opposition deputies who went to the debate wished that they would come to the National Assembly to question the ministers. And I tell you, the person that would be happiest if there were investigations, questioning of ministers and officials, is Nicolás Maduro. I agree that they should ask for explanations. And if that questioning and those investigations the National Assembly has to undertake a vote of no confidence, then so be it. I would abide by it.
With the return of democracy in Bolivia, the recovery of institutionality begins. As part of this process, President Luis Arce has named a new Attorney General. Our correspondent Paola Perez brings us the details.
In that way, Wilfredo Chavez was sworn in as the state's Attorney General. An attack took place in La Casa Grande del Pueblo. President Luis Arce pointed out that this is the first step to recover justice in Bolivia.
There were many sensible cases, and many of them have been used against us in the campaign. And we believe that it is precisely the actions that aim to defend the interests, because paradoxically, those of us who defended the interests of the state were the ones who were in the shade of the accused. Now the time has come to recover institutionality, to recover our attorney's office, and put it again at the service of the Bolivian people.
The state's Attorney General denounced that the de facto government has distorted the institutionality of the Attorney General's office, a public legal institution that was supposed to comply with the high constitutional function of defending and legally representing the Bolivian state.
The Attorney General's office was created in 2009 to defend the main interests of the state. In recent times, it had become a state agency of persecution and the agents do not act alone. I promise that this agency, Mr. President, will be immediately dissolved.
After the recovery of democracy, Bolivians expect public institutions to assume their role. No one wants to relive the times of dictatorship.
I ask you to rule for the entire Bolivia, to be like a father for all. I want democracy and justice for the whole country. I want to live a free Bolivia for my grandchildren.
Arce's new government has to make the enterprise of the state to be for the Bolivians. Everything has to stay here, not like in the previous government, that all the profits were taken out and crumbs were left for the country. There was no benefit for us.
By disgrace, these 11 months have been bad in every way, and we want to return to an economic and social stability. That's what we want and hope as Bolivians.
Gradually, work teams are being organized in the different ministries and public institutions to accelerate the economic and social restructuring.
Paola Pérez, teleSUR, Bolivia.
The Dominican Republic's Emergency Operations Center has put 24 provinces on alert due to the heavy rains registered in the country that have displaced over 7,000 people, isolated 13 communities and destroyed homes and infrastructure. The National Met Office reported that a tropical wave or possible hurricane would affect the occurrence of downpours, thunder, lightning and gusts of wind in the southeast, southwest, central mountain range and border areas of the country. Most of the country is on a yellow alert for possible flash floods due to the overflow of rivers and streams, as well as landslides. Residents in vulnerable areas are recommended to adopt measures that prevent the loss of life and property damage, while being urged not to cross rivers, streams and gullies with high volumes of water and stay clear from areas with slopes where landslides could occur. According to US media, Democrat Joe Biden won the states of Arizona and Georgia this Friday to secure a total of 306 electoral college votes against President Donald Trump's 232. This represents an exact flip of the final vote in 2016 when Trump won 306 electoral votes, while Democrat candidate Hillary Clinton won 232. Popular vote-wise, Biden won 77.5 million votes, or 50.8%, compared to the 72.3 million, representing 47.4%, who voted for Trump, which is an advantage of 5 million votes. Biden's win in Arizona represents a flipping of the state to Democrat for the first time since 1996, when Bill Clinton won the state's support for his White House bid. The tight race in Arizona ended with a lead of more than 11,000 ballots for Biden, giving him the state's 11 electoral votes. Meanwhile, President Trump won North Carolina to take 15 more electoral college votes. Despite Biden's overwhelming victory, Trump continues to refuse to acknowledge his defeat. The United States Department of Homeland Security has described the recent presidential election as the most secure in the history of the country. According to a statement from the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, there is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. The statement thus challenges President Donald Trump's claims of widespread electoral fraud and other voting irregularities. The nation's election agencies, along with nearly a dozen federal officials, have expressed the utmost confidence in the security and integrity of the elections, noting that election officials are reviewing and double-checking the entire election process prior to finalising the result. Former US President Barack Obama has said during an interview about his new book, A Promised Land, that being president is a temporary job and that presidents are not above the law.
Donald Trump won. I stayed up until 2:30 in the morning, and I then called Donald Trump to congratulate him. His margin of victory over Hillary Clinton wasn't greater than Joe Biden's margin over him. But if you're listening to some of the talk radio that Trump voters are listening to, if you're watching Fox News, if you're getting these tweets, those allegations are presented as facts. So you've got millions of people out there who think, oh yeah, there must be cheating because the president said so. They obviously didn't think there was any fraud going on because they didn't say anything about it for the first 2 days. But there's damage to this because what happens is that the peaceful transfer of power the notion that any of us who attain an elected office, whether it's dog catcher or president, are servants of the people. It's a temporary job. We're not above the rules. We're not above the law. That's the essence of our democracy.
And the former US president notes in the first volume of his upcoming memoirs that the divisions in the US run deep, and the departure of Donald Trump from the White House will not be enough to bridge the divide. In an excerpt from A Promised Land, Obama says that US democracy seems to be teetering on the brink of crisis, rooted in a fundamental contest between two opposing visions of what the United States is and should be. The former president added that this crisis has allowed for an ongoing breach of institutional norms, procedural safeguards, and the adherence to basic facts that both Republicans and Democrats once took for granted. China has condemned the United States government for abusing state power to oppress Chinese companies. The statements come after US President Donald Trump banned investment in firms that he claims aid China's military.
On the basis of political motivations, the U.S. government slanders China's military-civilian integrated development policy, abusing state power to arbitrarily oppress Chinese companies. This seriously violates the principles of market competition as well as international trade rules, and severely undermines normal trade and investment cooperation between China and the U.S. This measure not only severely harms the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese companies, it also hurts the interests of international investors, including those from the U.S. China urges the U.S. to view China's military-civilian integrated development policy correctly, stop its wrong behavior of using the pretext of national security to recklessly oppress Chinese companies, and withdraw the relevant wrong decisions. We will resolutely protect the legitimate rights of Chinese companies.
And the Chinese Foreign Ministry has also congratulated US President-elect Joe Biden and his Vice President Kamala Harris for their victory in last week's elections.
We have been paying close attention to the domestic and international response to this U.S. presidential election. We respect the choice of the U.S. people. We express our congratulations to Mr. Biden and Mrs. Harris. At the same time, we understand the result of the U.S. election will be determined in accordance with U.S. laws and procedures.
Russia has warned that the new strategic arms reduction treaty, due to expire in 3 months, will not be extended due to the conditions imposed by US negotiators. Speaking at a virtual press conference on Thursday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stressed that US President Donald Trump's administration is too concerned about winning and losing, which extends not only to elections but also to negotiations and deals with foreign countries. The first START treaty was signed in 1991 by then US President George H.W. Bush and his Soviet counterpart Mikhail Gorbachev, and expired in 2009. This was immediately followed by the New START treaty agreed by Presidents Barack Obama and Dmitry Medvedev. The agreement puts restrictions on the amount of deployed nuclear warheads, but does not limit the number of inactive missiles allowed to be stockpiled. The current treaty is due to expire on February 5th next year, and Washington's demands are proving to be a stumbling block in the negotiations. The Moroccan army has launched an illegal military operation in the Western Sahara in violation of a 3-decade-old ceasefire, triggering clashes with the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army. Morocco sent soldiers dressed in civilian clothes to attack Sahrawi demonstrators who've been protesting in the border area of Gueguera for more than 3 weeks, before entering the buffer zone in military vehicles. According to reports, fighting between the two sides began immediately. The Polisario Front issued a statement announcing the violation of the ceasefire and stressing that Morocco had thus sparked a war. The front called on the entire population to prepare in response to the brutal aggression and for the new and decisive stage in the struggle for freedom, dignity and sovereignty. Morocco's Ministry of Foreign Affairs attempted to justify its acts by claiming it had exercised the utmost restraint in the face of the serious and unacceptable provocations of the Polisario Front's militias, and was acting to put a stop to a blockade of trucks travelling between Moroccan-controlled areas of the disputed territory and neighbouring Mauritania. And the President of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic and Secretary-General of the Polisario Front, Brahim Ghali, this Friday sent an urgent letter to the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres and the President of the Security Council, Ambassador Inga Ronda King, informing them of the implications of Friday's attack by Moroccan forces on unarmed Sahrawi civilians who've been demonstrating peacefully at Guaguarat. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison will travel to Japan within days to meet with the country's new leader, Yoshihide Suga. Morrison announced that he would visit Japan to discuss the coronavirus pandemic as well as trade, security and defence with Suga, who became Prime Minister of Japan in September following the resignation of Shinzo Abe. He also said he was honoured to be the first foreign leader to visit Japan to meet the new Prime Minister following his appointment. Morrison, who will also visit Papua New Guinea to meet with Prime Minister James Marip, said the trip was in the national interest after postponing a planned trip to Japan in January because of Australia's bushfire crisis. According to a report from the International Energy Agency, global demand for oil will not completely recover even if a vaccine against COVID-19 is distributed worldwide. The agency noted that recovery might not be achieved until well into 2021. That forecast is based on the positive increase in crude oil prices this week after it was reported that one of the vaccine candidates in clinical trials has proven to be 90% effective. The monthly report from the Paris-based agency notes that it is too soon to know how and when vaccines will allow people to return to their normal lives, and a significant impact is not expected within the first semester of 2021. UK Transport Secretary Grant Shapps has ruled out any delays to the country's imports of COVID-19 vaccines, regardless of whether the United Kingdom manages to negotiate a trade deal with the European Union before the end-of-year Brexit deadline. Speaking to British media, Shapps reassured the public that the government has signed a freight contract which will allow the UK to import Category 1 goods, such as vaccines, as well as ensuring that there is a backup plan in place in the event of a no-deal Brexit. British firm Croda International, which provides a key ingredient in Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine, has warned that overcoming a potential Brexit disruption is a crucial step in ensuring that millions of Brits can access the jab when it is approved. The news comes after the UK government announced that it had purchased 40 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine, which was recently revealed to be more than 90% effective, as hopes grow that the first jabs will be available before Christmas. Some 460,000 small enterprises in Italy are running the risk of closure due to the negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a report by the Social Investment Study Centre, the companies affected by the pandemic account for 11.5% of the total nationwide and employ at least 10 workers each, with an annual turnover of under €1 million. The research, carried out in conjunction with the National Council of Accountants, concluded that the closure of small enterprises will lead to the loss of nearly 1 million jobs. The report warns that COVID-19 could eliminate twice the number of small enterprises that closed between 2008 and 2009 as a consequence of the last global economic crisis. And we've come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss, and thank you for watching.